Welcome back. It's time to get a business update with Owen. Hello again, Owen. So how are the European markets reacting to that State of the Union speech?
A little bit of a bounce, Claire, I think it's safe to say, on the European markets. Paris, Frankfurt and London all opening just marginally up in the green. There are lots of results out there over the past 24 hours or so, some good, some bad. We'll get into those in a moment. Those are the numbers, as you can see, on the European markets. Pretty healthy start to the day. That's despite all those residual concerns about Greece and that vital deal on private investors writing off some of their holdings. The Asian markets, more mixed as well, or those that are trading at least. Many of them remain shut, don't forget, for the Chinese New Year. But the Nikkei did end the day around 1.1% up. That's despite the fact that the Japanese government came out with a milestone in its economic history, turning the first annual deficit since 1980. We've seen that coming for some time now. We've talked a lot over past months about how strong the yen is. That always hammers the exporters, and so it's proved with those figures, with a 250 billion yen trade deficit for December. So the yen not helping things, and of course the Japanese economy has still struggled to get itself back on its feet post-Fukushima.
And Ericsson's shares have taken a real hit this morning after some bad results.
Down more than 10%, absolutely right. Ericsson has had a rotten year, really. Remember, it had that partnership with Sony in mobile phones. It's kind of weaning itself off that, but nevertheless, it's still tied up and still taking the hit from some of Sony's losses, reporting fourth quarter profits down 65%. I can tell you that its shares as well on the opening of the European markets are down more than 10%. Novartis as well, the Swiss drug maker, not a great earnings season either. Its fourth quarter earnings down, you can see there, around 40% or so. It's time, I think, to talk a little bit about Davos. It opened today, the World Economic Forum in the Swiss ski resort of Davos. Our business editor, Marcus Carlson, our other business editor, I should say, Marcus Carlson, is there for us. He joins us from Davos. Morning to you, Marcus. I know you've been having a chance to enjoy a little bit of that snow there. It all looks very pretty. Barack Obama, President Obama, was making his State of the Union address just before you got to the conference centre this morning. He was talking about making taxation fairer, a fairer economic model for the United States, and that really feeds in to the theme of this year's economic forum.
You're absolutely right, Owen. Fairness and the disparities between the high earners and the low earners, that's one of the main themes here at Davos. Now, you would think that one of Barack Obama's wishes in particular to have taxes at 30% at least for people who earn more than $1 million would go down like a lead balloon here in Davos with the high rollers here. But at least publicly, I don't know what they say behind closed doors, but at least publicly, they do acknowledge that there is a problem with capitalism as it looks like today and with this fairness issue. The founder of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, he's spoken about, for instance, a sense of burnout in the global economy today. People are tired with austerity measures that we have seen, particularly right here in the Eurozone or in the Eurozone. And also people are tired of having rowing politicians talking, debating, going back and forth between different solutions to, for instance, the Eurozone crisis. So certainly it seems like this will be a major theme this year. And as I say, the key theme that Klaus Schwab has set out, it is called the Great Transformation Shaping New Models. That basically means that it's all about capitalism and reworking capitalism to the needs of the 21st century. Now, a lot of people will probably say that the people here in Davos, they represent the status quo. They probably don't want change, seeing that they do belong to the famous 1% that earn the most here in the world. But of course, the leaders here, the business leaders, say that they acknowledge that there needs to be change, and they're going to try to at least go towards that change.
Marcus, Claire here. Can they get past this Eurozone crisis? Lots of leaders gathering there will find it hard to leave the day-to-day business behind. Who are we expecting?
Absolutely. I mean, the Eurozone crisis, I suppose, will lie over this Davos World Economic Forum like a wet blanket. This is the issue that we cannot get away from, and this will very much be a theme this Wednesday as well, because Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, she's the keynote speaker, and she's been under pressure, for instance, in the last few days or so to increase the firepower or the lending capacity of the Eurozone's permanent bailout fund. This is the European Stability Mechanism. It's due to become operational later on this year, and so far Eurozone leaders, they have agreed to pump 500 billion euros into this ESM. Germany, though, particularly as the paymaster of the European Union, is already under pressure to really hike up that number to something much bigger than that in order to provide that firewall to stop the Eurozone crisis spreading from Greece to other countries like Italy and like Spain. Christine Lagarde, the head of the IMF, she is also here in Davos. She put the pressure on Germany just the other day, for instance, and all of the other Eurozone members to hike up that firepower of the European Stability Mechanism.
Marcus, Carlson, thank you very much for that update from Davos. Now, let's pick up on President Obama's State of the Union address. He used the word jobs 42 times in that speech. This is a huge battleground for the elections later this year.
Yeah, it'd be hard to find a more contested topic, basically, Claire, right now, where set aside all the arguing over debt limits and all that kind of thing. It's really the most immediate indicator you get when it comes to jobs, when it comes to the health of the US economy, jobs. We've seen some fairly encouraging figures over the last few weeks. That's good for Obama before making that State of the Union speech. But what's his record really been like over the past 4 years or so on jobs? Catherine Gillam's been finding out.
In the last 22 months, businesses have created more than 3 million jobs. Last year, they created the most jobs since 2005. American manufacturers are hiring again, creating jobs for the first time since the late 1990s.
Pleased to have some good economic news at last. The US unemployment rate now stands at 8.5%, down from a peak of 10%. But that's still much higher than before Obama came to office. More than 8 million jobs were lost in the first year of his mandate. It's taken 3 years for his $787 billion stimulus package to bear fruit. As well as unemployment rates dropping, last quarter's consumer spending was up by 4.4% to its highest level since 2006. Obama also claimed a victory in the automotive industry. General Motors, Chrysler and Ford have all turned their fortunes around, creating 200,000 jobs in the process. General Motors recently reclaimed its place as the top-selling car maker in the world. But in this presidential election year, Obama has promised still more.
It is time to stop rewarding businesses that ship jobs overseas and start rewarding companies that create jobs right here in America. Send me these tax reforms and I will sign them right away.
The US economy does seem to be on the mend, but is it too little too late for Barack Obama? No president in the modern era has won re-election with an unemployment rate over 7.2%.
And before we go, we'll have to wait a month before we find out who cleans up at the Oscars. But financially, one backer is already doing pretty well.
Harvey Weinstein and his brother Bob Weinstein. Have you seen this one, Claire, the artist, the movie that's
Yes.
cleaned up here in France? I've yet to see it. I must see this movie. This movie, I think, has got around 10 Oscar nominations altogether and is doing pretty tidily. It only cost around $15 million to make. It's taken double that worldwide since its release. It's still playing. These guys have got form, basically, for putting movies out there right before the Oscars. Maximise publicity, maximise returns. They did the same with The King's Speech, which, as you remember, cleaned up that last year's ceremony. So, I don't know, are all bets off or on for this movie? What do you think?
I think it'll do pretty well. Like you say, 10 nominations. We'll find out the results at the end of February. Thanks very much, Owen, for that look at the day's business news. That's it for now. Do stay tuned to France 24. All the latest headlines coming up in just a couple of minutes with Stuart.